right, time for the first monthly update of the year. This is post frost freeze. We didn't get too bad in the yard here. Fared pretty well. I'll go through and point out the damage we did have. The most obvious one is the bananas and the ice cream bean out front. They got pretty toasted. But everything back here did pretty good. I know I posted a couple of shorts kind of showing where the frost hit. And really it was like this oak canopy just did so well for protecting everything. You don't really need it to be, fully overhung over where the plants are at, but it's, probably about halfway into the yard. You can kind of see where the shadow is there. So we still get good sun back here in this area, from around noon till all the way through till about 5 o'clock. I would say we get some sun. Like everything gets probably about 5 to 9 hours of sunlight, depending on where it's at in the yard and the time of year. But I would rather have the plants have less sun and be protected from frost than getting torched. But some things are more susceptible to others, and we'll see with that. Anyways, done rambling, but I've been pulling everything out. Just in case it did get really cold, I pushed all these potted plants. Doesn't take a lot of work. It does take some time, but just push them under there. They stay pretty warm. And all the sensitive stuff is still in the greenhouse, and it's going to stay in there until just before March. I'll be going to Vegas in March again this year for trade show. But yeah, nothing out here really got hurt at all. Or at least in the potted plants. But we got some jabos right now in the red. And actually we got, there's one fruit set on the Broncovino down below, right there. And there's flowers kind of sparsely up and down it, so that's cool. We got another fruiting jabo on top of that, or on top of the scarlet and the red, and the scarlet's got a little bit of fruit on it too, still. Let's see, there's one right there. And there's little flowers popping out all over it again. So this one, the scarlet, seems like once they start taking off, they're kind of like the red. They just don't stop. So got these miracle fruits over here. I can see what else is going on. It's pretty messy over here since I pushed everything in. But one thing that's interesting too is I took a cutting off of my red finger lime. It's that one right there. And I put it in here, was it like a year or two ago? And it's got little flowers on it already, which is kind of nice. Little pink flower buds popping out. These are not flowers. These are like some spider webs or something. But it's kind of cool to see. It was pretty easy to take the cutting. I didn't try hard. I put rooting hormone on it, but it was like one of the only ones that I took, and it took. Let's see. We'll take a peek in the greenhouse. Most of these here are just reds. I think that's a Broncovino, or not Broncovino, Broncomel Ariana right there. Let's go over here. Look inside. Everything did pretty well in here. The only real issue I had with the greenhouse is it got windy when that cold came in, and this end here, the wind was actually coming from the south, and it like blew this way and knocked over this rack of plants, and I didn't have the little supporting rods at the bottom. I just forgot to put them on. I figured it'd be okay because I had plants like pushed up against it, but it just tipped over. It's not very heavy, and a lot of them actually fell upright. You can see my orchid on the ground right there, just because they're bottom heavy. But I did get a couple of plants that just like fell completely out. There's like a pile of dirt down there. I put them back in their pots, but I think I remember just by looking at them, like which was which. But let's see, like this one here, I believe is one of the cold hardy Corrientes seedlings, and then I had another one which was one of the Villela collection Trensifloras, and it was on the floor too, and I don't know which one was which, and this one could be a Pingo de Mel as well. I don't think it was, because I don't remember having a Pingo de Mel that popped out like two like that. I think all the Pingos were on this side. But so yeah, we might have a misidentified Javos, which is the first time that's happened. But I'm sure once they grow up, I'll be able to look at any similarities just to correct it later. Like I've got Arianas mixed up with reds before and thought like, man, this red has a really big leaf. It's like, no, it's a Broncamel seedling. But let's see, my Coronado. This is the Coronado Otto Anderson It's Asucana. I'm not sure how to pronounce it in Portuguese, but this one is just a really pretty tree. Like it's very, like it's someone that has like the bluish greenish growth when it comes out fresh, and then it does harden off into like this red before becoming green. So it's got like a really pretty growth habit. But you can tell this is going to be a big tree. Wants to grow very vertically, which seems to be characteristic of Coronados for me so far. Here's the Coronado Hestinga, which it's got a lot of peeling bark down here. It's a good sign. It's fatter than my thumb, so it's probably got another couple of years before it fruits. I know people are having theirs start to flower at like 7 years old. I'm not sure what the age is on this one, but I'm gonna guess at least 3 or 4 years old, somewhere in that range. I got this one from Flying Fox Fruits. Yeah, very pretty tree. I just love this thing. Let's see, and then yeah, all the Jabos are doing good. We did get a little bit of cold damage on, surprisingly, this rock. No, which one is this? I always get this one mixed up. I've got a tag on it. Yeah, Campo Ramon. I don't know why. I wanted to say Roxapulpa, but that's not what it is. Yeah, when we got that first wave of cold back in November, this had a whole bunch of new growth coming out on it and just got torched. But you can see really a lot of the time, like I guess the tender tips did die back a bit, but it's got some new growth coming out here, and then even down here, like the new growth is coming out. So I know this one was supposed to be a little more cold tolerant, but the new growth on any plant, I think, during those little cold spurts can get them wrecked pretty hard. Just kind of rambling. Let's see. So I think I got this Cambuca here. Thinking about buying a couple of scions from Flying Fox Fruits off of his Cambuca and grafting just some mature branches onto it. This one's about a year or two old. It's definitely 2 years old now at this point, maybe 2.5. So the trunk on this thing is about as thick as my finger, so I could put a pretty good sized scion on that thing. So we'll think about doing that for this year, probably after March. And then here's one of my Inga Vulpinas, and I know Inga Vulpina is supposed to be a bit more cold hardy. So I'm thinking about, and we'll move out into the yard now instead of me just rambling about everything over here. I'm thinking about actually planting it over here. So you can see the Orinoco banana got a little torch there. It'll be fine. We'll push out a couple new leaves. But I'm thinking about putting it like right here because I think it'll grow up pretty quickly past the height of the fence there. Should be easy to maintain. They are a smaller variety, but I kind of want to get like a dense, like, bit of protection here, and then I'm going to plant my cacao right there, and that should provide plenty of protection from wind and cold air coming through. And probably in the winter time I will cover the cacao and get ready to put a heater, but that's not really a problem. I've got an outlet right there, so I can get a tiny space heater and put it on one of these rocks and just wrap it up against the wall if it gets really cold. And this spot here is just always moist, just because it's like right up against the house. So I think the cacao will do good here. Don't get a lot of sun, like it'll get all the morning sun, because this is the east side of the house. On this side, this is the north side. Really, the intense afternoon sun doesn't really hit like this spot specifically, so I think the cacao should be good here. And then that density should provide, protection for these two Garcinia macrophylla doacres, which I've got these pigeon peas planted in here. You can see they're starting to grow up a bit. And these should help with the intense sun as well. So I know in the summertime what ends up happening is the sun like comes down through here, and you can actually see where I put the stones for the plant beds here. The light in the summer actually comes to about like right here, and then in the winter it goes back up like that. So in the summertime, like this is pretty much like full on intense heat, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if I had these like dappled light from the pigeon peas and the Inga vulpina that's going to go right here. So I know there's a sprinkler head in here from the sprinkler system. I don't run this side of the yard, only in the front. Yeah, there it is right there. So I might actually get in there and just cut that one out. I think the pipe comes like this. I might just dig the thing out and cap it off and save it for a later day, or another day. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else is in here. Yeah, I shoved in a couple of these. I think these are governor's plums. I got these from I grew these from seeds that I ate fruit from at Fruit and Spice Park in Miami. And I need to pot them up. They're like super aggressively. They grow super aggressively. They seem to be pretty cold tolerant. The only reason I haven't put them into the ground is because they're very spiky. But I might just like take them out of the pots and prune the roots and put them back in these pots. Because they don't really seem to have like a tap root. They just grow a lot of like shallow roots. But I got this Garcinia in here. This is the one of the seashore mangosteens, and you can see it got a little burnt up in the cold, but the only protection it got was below the bananas here, which got a little torched too. But you can see there's new growth here, like from right under this frond, and it didn't even get touched really. And it got cold out here. It was about 28 degrees in this spot, I think, for an hour or two. So I think as long as you protect your seashore mangosteens from the wind, I think they're okay. Like they don't mind the ambient cold, and that goes for a lot of these. Even this starfruit, people say to protect those. I didn't even cover this thing up, and I don't plan on ever covering it up. So maybe I just got lucky. It wasn't as cold right there as that sensor said it was, but sensor's like right there. So I don't know. I feel like things are a little stronger than people give them credit for, if you have a microclimate and are making sure that there's just some buffer. A lot of the damage that I saw really are in exposed areas, like the June plum, for example. That thing is torched all the hell. Now the plant's fine. I don't even think the branches got messed up, and they kind of drop their leaves this time of the year anyways, and then grow new branches. At least for me, they do. This thing's never fruited for me or flowered or anything, so it's probably due for another pruning. I don't want it to get too big, but it is nice having it right here because it provides a little bit of shade. I've got all these little red seedlings down here, and those are red in the ground right there. I've got a Pitomba there as well, so the shade's nice. This is a strawberry guava, completely unfazed. Coming out of the front, you'll see like things are less protected, right? We've got just kind of this open area. It's like a wind tunnel out here. You know, this jackfruit, let me see if I can zoom in. Jackfruit right here in the front. Actually, let me zoom back out. Oh, sun's in my eyes now, I can't see. This jackfruit right here got a little bit crispy. I don't know if it's picking it up in the camera, but basically the side closest to the street got burnt. Everything close to the house didn't even really get phased. You know, I'm not really worried if this thing gets burnt as it's taller than the house, because I don't really want it to get too tall. So if it stays lower, that's fine. But I don't even think, you know, it's not going to even burn down. Like the branches are probably fine, but the leaves are going to fall off and it'll grow new branches. Like it's completely fine. Like this is just a seedling jackfruit. Let's say, what was it? That's about 12 feet tall, 13 feet tall at this point. At about 3 years old coming up. So we'll probably see some flowers on things soon, I would bet. But the other thing that got hit, and I don't know if this was from, just because I put a frost cloth on it, but I think it was definitely from the frost cloth. But I had, this is the sweet tart mango graft that I did. You can see the burnt leaf here. All these areas where it's burnt is what was touching the frost cloth. So I know that's pretty typical. You don't want the leaves to touch the frost cloth. But in my case, I didn't want to spend a lot of time covering it. I didn't think it really needed to be covered. It may not have been burnt if I didn't cover it. But it is a part of this little wind tunnel here. But as you can see, everything that didn't touch the frost cloth is fine. And my main goal was just to protect my grafts down here. So I had it, you know, basically wrapped around the top like a lollipop. And then I put another cover over the top of that just to make sure that this center area, that's about 3 feet off the ground where I did a couple of grafts. So got one really good take there. There's like a couple of smaller ones around the edges that I just had some extra material, and it was like, we'll see if it takes, and they took. So mangoes aren't too hard to graft. So I'm not worried about this tree at all. I think next year, as long as the hurricanes are not too generous and this thing grows real well, we probably won't cover it up next year, or this year. Let's see. The biggest casualty I have really is this ice cream bean. North side of it, completely, anything exposed to the north side got completely torched. But interestingly, you can see like right there, there's some leaves that were behind the leaves that got torched, and they're fine. The other thing that's interesting is the very dense new growth here seems to be unfazed. So we'll do an update video on this in like 2 weeks. And I have a feeling that it's not even going to look like this at all. It'll look like nothing ever happened. But they're pretty... I was actually surprised that it got burnt up like that, because we got some frost earlier in the year. Later last year. Earlier in the winter season, I guess. And it was completely untouched. So I think this really was just that cold wind is just exposed to it. The other thing I tried to do, actually, look, here's the south side of it. Well, you can't even tell that it got cold over here. Still looks good. I'm not worried about this plant at all. And actually, that's one of the reasons that I'm going to plant. Like this is like just kind of proving to me that they are a good windbreak. Protecting the smaller plants, because this plumeria didn't really get hit at all. It already had the leaves typically fall off on these, but I was kind of expecting them to be burnt up. All the other neighbors that had them out in the front yard, like they had some leaves on them, but after the cold they just crisped up. But you can see like still got leaves here. It pushed out a little bit. But anyways, actually we still have flowers trying to pop out on it. That's interesting. So it's kind of cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, I haven't done a update on the grimmel over here in a little bit either. Here's a red seedling that I put in the ground. These are directly sown. These are about, what, 2.5, 3 years old. So it's like a bunch of different seeds that I just pop. And yeah, they're doing really well. So there's probably about 5 plants in one hole here. And they'll eventually grow together. But here's the Grimmel. It definitely, the leaves turned a little bit red on the tips after the cold. You can see like right here. It doesn't seem to be too bothered by it though. There's a whole bunch of new growth coming out. I expect that this will look like a completely different tree in a few weeks. I'm trying to see, this thing did have like little flower bumps all over it. Yeah, here's one right here. Trying to get it to focus. It's definitely a flower. So hopefully we get some fruit on this for the first time pretty soon. I did a video on it, or maybe I took a picture of it a couple months ago, and I noticed that it started having like little flower bumps pop all over it. But I think it slowed down and just kind of stopped growing. The Grimmel's kind of weird. Like it seems to go through these phases where like it just does nothing, and then all of a sudden it explodes, and it does nothing for a long time, and then all of a sudden it explodes again. Unlike the other Jabos where they seem to have like I guess a shorter cadence between pushes, and maybe it's just finally getting established in here. And this is a pretty rough spot for the Jabos. Like it gets, like in the summertime, it gets torched because by noon it's in full sun because the sun is like, more so on this side, and just bearing down on it the whole time, and it doesn't get any relief. But I'm hoping this peach tree here will eventually give it a little bit of shade, and we're going to keep the peach tree not much taller than that. So I even had some orchids in here on the north side. So orchids are pretty cold hardy relatively. They don't seem to mind the cold at all, as long as they're not out completely exposed. Some other stuff. Here's my guava tree. So I've got this big Ruby Supreme out front, and it's a challenge getting the fruit off of this thing. You're fighting squirrels and worms for it, and two-legged squirrels all the time. See, look at this. This thing is looking weird and bruised. It's definitely ripe. Maybe that's a little bit of cold damage. Let me smell it. It smells, yeah, it's definitely ripe. So yeah, I think the fruit got cold damage. They're kind of pink. Interesting. So that might just be that the fruit on the surface froze. But it doesn't mind. I mean, it doesn't like the cold. Like you can see when we do get cold come in, like the leaves get burnt. But as long as it's up against the house, they don't seem to really care about it. Fruits and flowers like no other. Ruby Supreme, I definitely recommend that one. Grimmy Chama was completely unfazed. Got a whole bunch of new growth coming out. My Sabra here, I put a cover over it just because I wanted to protect the new growth, but yeah, it kind of worked a little bit. I figured like the leaves that were touching were gonna get touched by the cold a little bit, but I think for the most part, like these are gonna be okay. They're not gonna look like the best leaves, but they'll still be able to photosynthesize. So I'd call that a win. It didn't need to be covered to stay alive, but I did it anyways. This ice cream being on the south side, you can see this fresh new growth here got a little touched, but it was protected by the guava tree and largely like undamaged. Yeah, pretty much no damage at all. I wouldn't even consider that. Like this might not even be from the cold here. This could have been from a bug. Who knows? I've got it tied to the guava tree so that it's not leaning into the neighbor's yard. I might have to tighten that up a bit. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I've got this Luke's Garcinia here. Didn't care at all. I've got a Myrcearia cuspidata right there, which, it's protected on the north side by this wall. And at first I was going to put a little pot over it to give it some help, but I was kind of like, you know what? We'll just leave it exposed and see what happens. I've got several more of them. We'll find out how cold hardy they are, and apparently they don't mind, at least protected by a wall on its north. This is the south side of the house, but being on the south side of the house and below freezing temps for a short period, they don't seem to care. So And I think that's pretty typical of the Myrtaceae for the most part. So I'm not surprised. Let's see, yellow Grimmichama. It had all this new growth up the top, and I didn't cover it up because I wanted to see what would happen. And yeah, didn't care. So Grimmichama definitely can handle the cold. I know people say sometimes like, oh, Grimmichamas are a little more sensitive, but so far for me, they're one of my hardiest plants in terms of cold tolerance. Oh, what is this? Is this my Julie Mango flowering? Yes, we got Julie Mango flowers. I'm gonna have to prune. This is like a salt and pepper plant. This is a really good ground cover. I keep it, like I'll come in by hand and prune up around the base of the mango tree, but I gotta get back in there and do that again. It's just really nice for, like, I don't want the grass to be growing into the beds, so I might get a couple more of these and just line some of my the edges of the garden beds with this. It does grow thick though, so you have to stay on top of it. But they make these little white flowers, and they're pretty cool. The bees love them. There's a bunch of natives in here. I've got some goldenrod that keeps reseeding itself, and that's a fun plant. Let's see. Yeah, the jackfruits here didn't really get touched. I think this might be some cold damage. I'm not sure, because they do kind of yellow and drop their leaves this time of the year and flush out the new stuff. Yeah, man, what is it? That's 5 jackfruits in one hole. I've just pushed the seeds in, so these are all from the same fruit. It's just gonna be survival of the fittest here. I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with this. They might just all grow together. I'm not sure. If anyone has any experience dealing with that, let me know. But either they're all gonna grow into one tree and it's just gonna be fused together at some point, or I'm gonna have to cull the weakest of them. I don't know. I'll think about it. My pathetic Valencia orange here. It's definitely, I think it's 100% afflicted by greening. It's got a couple of fruits on it, but I have not yet had a good fruit off this thing. Like, it's, ever since I got it, it's just been a hard tree to keep alive. I think one of the problems too is that it's in full sun here up against the wall, and I don't think it likes that. I hit it with some fertilizer this year, and I'll stay on top of the fertilizer this year rather, and see if it'll just come back from that. But this might be one of the first trees I actually remove from the yard, just because it's a disease vector at this point, and it's not giving me anything. So yeah. And then moving into the back on this side, Kwai Muck reigns supreme. It doesn't care about frost. I do think if we had a sustained cold, it would suffer, but you know, a couple hours below 28 degrees, it doesn't care. It really doesn't. Like, there's a couple of spots on the leaves up there, but there's some new growth coming out. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Some new growth coming out, and it's like, why is it not focusing? There we go. No, come on. Yeah, there we go. So that new growth, like, completely untouched. This is one of the coldest spots in the yard right here. Yeah, so if you don't have one of these in a colder climate, it's definitely one of the easier articarpus to grow, it seems like, at least in terms of cold. Let's take a look at the Sabra here. I'm hoping we got some flowers popping in on this thing soon. I see bumps all over the base. That's also, could just be frog poop, but I do see little tiny dots, and I'm hoping that once it gets a good bark peel, we'll see a bunch of flowers just flush out all of a sudden. So let's see if I can zoom in on this. Let's see. It's hard for me to tell if I can see anything on the camera because the sun's so bright, but we'll see in the video once I look at it afterwards. See that little bump right there? There's a bump over here that I keep looking at that's like been there for a while, but yeah, fingers crossed. I'd like to start getting some fresh Sabra seeds, because then I can start grafting some of my plants. We still got some finger limes on the finger lime coming in there. There's a couple of them. This has been the most rambly video I've done in a while. Barbados cherry, didn't care about the cold. Suriname cherry, looks like it handled it a little better this year. Last year, just like we didn't get that cold last year, and the tree like turned red. Like it didn't like the cold. I don't know why. And this year, it doesn't look like it even did any. Has no negative effects from the cold. This is just a Zildark. I mean, this newer growth did get a little bit red, but the old growth is fine. So maybe it's just getting acclimated. It hadn't really had a super cold year until last year since I put it in the ground. We got one little fruit there. So maybe this year we'll actually get a bunch of fruit off it. It's not my favorite, but you know, it's good to have fresh fruit just available. Let's go over here. Rainforest plum, I did cover this. It did get a little spotty from the cold, but I don't know if it was from that or just the frost cloth like rubbing up on it and damaging the leaves. But largely looks fine. There's also an orange cherry, the Rio. This one actually did. The new growth got burnt from the cold, but it is a tiny seedling. I wasn't really surprised by that. The Achacha, I actually covered up this time, and I put that black trash can. It's like half filled with water. So when I wrapped it up, I put that inside, so it was emitting a little bit of extra heat just to help out. I don't think the Achacha necessarily needed to be covered up, but it's just been through hell since the hurricane, and I didn't want it to. I'm just kind of babying it so it comes back. It tried to push out new growth last November, and like that little rogue early cold front that we got knocked out all that new growth. So it's set back, and it never really warmed up. Well, it warmed up a little bit, but not long enough to like, instigate it to start flowering, or not flowering, growing. So I'm hoping once we warm back up, we get some more consistent rain. It'll be okay. And actually, I might see a little bit of new growth coming out right here. Let's see. I think it stopped pushing this out. Yeah. So it's like in stasis right now because of the cold. But the tree is fine. Looks like there's a little bit here too. So let's see if I can. Yeah, there's some new branches coming out. Oh, look at that. This is what happens when you put frost cloth in things sometimes. You just break things. I don't even know what to do with that. I don't think it's worth doing anything with that. With this mulch. So, Achacha is fine. We'll see where it ends up. This Valencia Pride is an interesting mango tree. The first year I actually got it, it was like about the size of this branch here. And it's always been in this spot. As soon as I got it, like I never kept it in a pot. Like I immediately put it in the ground, and it was in like August or September of that year. So probably 2020, 2021. And it doubled in size up to about right there. I think the graft union's down here. And that year it got down to like 28 degrees. I think it was the last time we saw cold in this area. It was like January 2021, I want to say, and it burnt down to just a nub of growth like right here, and I was like really discouraged by that. I was like, man, I just can't grow mangoes here, I guess. And then I left it in the ground and didn't do. And that was before I noticed all the other mango trees in the area, of course. But I didn't do anything to it, and it just kind of popped back. And then, a couple of years later, it fully recovered. And ever since then, like, the cold completely doesn't phase it at all. Like, it was like something activated in its genes or something that was like, nah, we ain't dealing with that anymore. And It's not flowering yet either, but I know this is one of the later season mangoes. I'm hoping after this cold, like it'll trigger it. But there is not a burnt leaf on this thing. I don't even see any blemishes at all. Like, I think it's going to be a produce a pretty healthy crop for me this year, I'm hoping. I did tip it last year as well, so we got a whole bunch more panicles. Got about like 4 or 5 fruit off it last year. And same with this orange sherbet. It seemed to be completely unfazed. The flies are all over the bloom still. The flowers didn't open up actually until now. I can smell it. So they were closed the whole time during the cold, thankfully, and it looks like, but the fact that they've opened up makes me think that there's nothing wrong with them. I know some people say to wait about a week or so before determining if anything actually happened to the tree, but I think it's safe to say this thing's fine. Like, you don't have any drooping ends on the panicles coming out or anything like that. So I feel like we're gonna have a pretty good orange sherbet harvest this year. This is year 2.5 in the ground on this thing. And its cousin is over here. I got the lemon zest, and it actually flowered a little earlier. And let's see, looks like we still have some fruit set. So there's a little fruit there. I didn't get fruit off it last year. They all kind of dropped off. There's a fruit there, a couple fruit there. So I'm hoping this year it's feeling strong enough to actually hold on to the fruit. I am seeing some like black sooty mold all over this. I don't know. It may have just been from some scaly insects. I know the lemon zest is a little bit more susceptible to like the mold on the tree and kind of ruining the fruit. But worst case scenario, if this one doesn't work out for me, we'll just replace it with something else. Orange sherbet just does that much better. We might have 2 orange sherbet trees back here. We'll see. But so far, at the very least, like the lemon zest tree is strong. Just generally, like as a tree that grows and lives, didn't mind the cold at all. Although it is protected by this sweet almond bush, which may have actually saved these panicles from the cold wind. I didn't cover it at all. Let's see, what else? Video's running long. We're at almost 40 minutes, so I might just call it. But yeah, again, everything else did fine. Not much else to say. So I'm gonna cut it off here, and I'll do some little mini updates over the next week or so. And but yeah, take care, everyone.